Hey guys, Johnny Massingale here, doing some stuff with the boat when I had some work done on it, and I just thought I would give you a quick little thing to help you maybe catch some fish on a jig. I'm not a pro by any stretch of the imagination. I just want to help people catch fish. So the rod that I've got, you can throw a jig on multiple different kinds of rods, anything from an extra heavy to a medium heavy to heavy, depending on what you're using and the structure that you're using. So on this jig here, I've got a 3/8 ounce jig on an Enigma Fishing Aaron's Edge rod, which was Aaron Martin's rod when he was with Enigma, and he's no longer with us. The industry lost an icon when he passed away with brain cancer a couple weeks ago, and I'll never get rid of his rods. So my setup is I've got this one's, like I said, is on the 7.3 heavy with a fast action tip, 12 to 25 pound test line, and this rod will handle anywhere from a 3/8 ounce jig to a 1.5 ounce jig. I've got 15 pound test fluorocarbon on here on this one, and a 7:3 gear ratio Daiwa to Tula. So when you get your jig, obviously you're going to throw it out and you want it to hit the bottom. Of course, when it hits the bottom, when it's falling, watch your line. This is a line watcher's deal. When that line's falling, sometimes they'll hit that jig on the fall, same way they will with a worm or a tube or a beaver style bait. And if they hit it on the fall, then you just go ahead and hammer them home. But once that bait gets on the bottom, there's a few ways you can fish it. You can just wind it down and just slowly drag that bait. And if it hits a rock and you can't drag it anymore, just give it a little pop and it'll pop right off there. If it falls off an edge, let it fall. Hit your line, feed it some line. The other way that you can fish it is usually it hits the bottom, give it some pops. Just lift it a little bit, lift it and pop it. Just keep that jig moving, and they'll hit it like that because you get the little appendages moving around, and your jig skirt will flare a little bit. The other way that you can fish it is what I call popping or cracking. And what you do is you've got your line on a slack line, and you're really going to pop that line. Now it may look like that jig is jumping a long way, but it's really not. It's only moving about 6 inches, 8 inches, maybe a foot. But on a good slack line, pop it and let it hit the ground, hit the bottom again, pop it. All right. Now, how do you detect a jig bite? A jig bite can be a nightmare to figure out sometimes. Sometimes they want to slam that thing. I mean, they absolutely hit that thing with everything that they got trying to kill it. Smallmouth are notorious for that. And so what you do when that happens, if it gets slammed immediately, you need to do one of two things. That's either you need to hit him immediately or hold the pressure there and let that fish swim and then pop him. Or, and here's option number 3 that I've caught a lot of smallmouth on doing this. Smallmouth are trying to kill that crawfish. They got pinchers. And so what happens is they'll kill that thing, spit it right out, and they will come right back to that thing and they'll grab it and they'll swim off with it, and then you catch that fish. The other way that the jig bite is notorious for is sometimes you won't even know that you've got a bite. This is why this is a line watcher's deal. And this is a line watcher's deal that applies to jig fishing, shaky heading, beaver style bait, Ned rig, any kind of worm, any kind of slow moving bait. This is what you've got going on. When that bait hits the water and it hits at the bottom and you're not sure if it's a fish or not, what you need to do is just hold pressure there. That fish will tell you if it's a fish or not. If you're holding pressure there and that line starts to move, it's a fish. 99.9% of the time. Now it could be a slide down a tree, but you'll know it's a fish by that line starting to move. When that line moves a foot or two, wind down on a tight line and set the hook. Don't ever set your hook on a slack line, but if you do that, you're not going to get a solid hook set, when you're going to lose that fish or you're going to break it off. So have fun with the jig. I had to learn how to fish a jig myself, because what happened was we had a good warming trend up at Fort Knox one year when I was in the Army, and I decided, and I got this tip from Tommy Martin. He said, if you're going to learn to fish any technique, that's the only technique you need to take. So I went out there with a jig, and I was getting my eyeballs beat out by everybody around me for 2 weeks or more, and I finally, the light bulb started going off, and I started learning how to fish a jig. And so my biggest fish to date on a jig is a 6.5 pounder. I've had them on bigger at Chickamauga, probably double digit one time when me and a buddy of mine went. And but that's jig fishing. That's another story. So anyway, I hope this helps you. If you like it, if it can help you, hit the like and hit the share and hit the subscribe button, and give me a little bit of love. So have a good time, and peace out, and go catch a big one.